Vegas Baby. This is the segment where we go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of anything what we can fucking bet on this week. This week we got week 6 of the NFL, and I definitely want to cover a couple of betting lines for the NBA season that started today. All right, starting off with the good. I had Kansas City pulling out a win last week over the Washington football team. They were 6.5 point underdog over them. I thought that they were going to bounce back and winning 31-13 last week. You definitely like to see them bounce back if you are a Kansas City fan. If you're a Titans fan who's playing them next week, maybe not so much, but you know. I definitely had Dallas covering their 3-point spread over the Patriots last week. You thought that the Dallas was flying pretty high on offense. The Patriots were having some issues in the secondary where that's Dallas' strength. And Dallas was creating a lot of turnovers going against a rookie quarterback. You like that matchup. So if you were betting, you like to see Dallas did cover in their spread. I ain't like to see Dallas win though. The Bengals are definitely hot right now. I definitely said that they were going to be able to cover their 3.5 point spread against the Lions, and they came out and did just that, smacking the Lions in the mouth 34-11 last week. All right, definitely going to go into some of the bad picks for the weekend. If you thought that the Carolina Panthers were going to have a closer game to the Vikings or even win, such as myself last week, covering their 2.5 point spread, then you were sadly mistaken. Chris McCaffrey was not active for that game, and Dalvin Cook was. Vikings were able to put up a lot of points, which exposing that defense. Even after having some success and getting back into it, they were not able to close that gap and cover that spread. The Panthers are trending in the wrong direction right now, and you don't like to see that. If you were betting on the Chargers to cover their 2.5 point spread against the Ravens last weekend, you were sadly mistaken as well. The Ravens came out on fire, torching the Chargers 34-6 last weekend. It was not a good sight. I had the Chargers actually winning, thinking that they were going to be a better team than the Colts, and the Colts were, in a way better position of winning. Lamar came out being Lamar, and it's sad to bet against Lamar. There are just some people I think that you should not bet against, and that's definitely probably starting to be one of them. The Seattle Seahawks were without Russell Wilson this weekend, so you like the Steelers covering their 5-point spread over them with a Geno Smith-led team leading them this weekend. The Steelers still came out looking flat, taking the game, I think, into overtime, barely winning against the Seahawks. Geno Smith had another turnover to end the game there and cause it. But the Steelers should not have let it be in a game to begin with. Again, the Steelers should not have had this to be in a game. And if you were betting on the Steelers to cover their spread, that was a bad spread. And I probably would say that betting with the Steelers going forward is on the wrong turn at this point. Now, we do have some ugly picks this weekend. And I mean ugly. I had the Dolphins going to London this weekend as my lock, covering their 3-point spread over the Jaguars. The Jaguars, who haven't won since week 1 of last year, on just a whirlwind second all-time losing streak, one of the worst teams put together in a while, come out and still beat the Dolphins. Tua played subpar all game, below par all game. He was coming back, and you do see that he had that rib injury, but it was a lack of explosiveness. They were missing some wide receivers. They were missing a lot of people in that offense, but this Jacksonville, you in London, you want to put a better field out there. You get your starting quarterback out there, back. You want to really show that you should be in the same situation, same scenarios as the Patriots and Bills. But they came out and showed that they are actually hurt, and it might cost them their season. And that's something super ugly. I definitely wouldn't advise betting with them going forward. Now, it depends on which way you look at it. Last episode, I called the Bills, the Browns. Sorry, I called the Browns over the Cardinals one of the worst picks by Vegas that you could possibly have, and that if the Cardinals were a 3.5 point favorite in that game, I would have took that as my lock. Easy money that they were coming out and going to beat the Browns. And with a 37-14 win over the Browns, you definitely don't want to gloat too hard, but that was a simple one to see. They have been underperforming all year, and I just didn't see how that they could have been a favorite at home or not over a Cardinals team that were putting up a crap ton of points right now. The reason why they're in the ugly though is their injuries and the way that they lost. Baker Mayfield did re-aggravate that labrum in his shoulder, non-thrown shoulder, which is terrible, and he might actually end up missing some time. If you ever had any labrum problems, that shit just really hurt. And Kareem Hunt went down and was carted off as well in that game, and that's a huge blow to that running game, which is the reason why they were in games to begin with. So no Baker, or a binged up Baker if he does play, and no Kareem Hunt. That's a recipe for disaster for that offense. And the defense is already going through a lot of injuries and inconsistencies. So I wouldn't advise betting with them going forward, at least for a while. Another team that I think that's going to be on the ugly as well is the Chicago Bears. They end up losing 24-14. Packers were able to cover their 6-point spread. You thought that because they are our division rivals, they'd be a little bit closer, but that's not the reason why they're on the ugly. The reason why they're on the ugly is Matt Nagy. Essentially, he reassumed play calling duties, and they put up 14 more points. Get him out of there. He doesn't want to see Justin Fields succeed. He wants to be right. He doesn't want to win. He wants to be right. He doesn't care about your job. He doesn't care about fans want to have something to watch. He doesn't care about any of that. He wants to be right. Just like he was right with Mitchell Trubisky. Right about what, though? Get him out of there until they finally get rid of Matt Nagy and push a Bill Lazor or a defensive coach to the interim position. I would not bet with the Bears going forward. I'm not saying that they're not going to win, but I'm not comfortable betting with a Matt Nagy-led team at this point. All right, tonight is the start of the NBA season. We definitely got 2 games on, and as a betting show, I definitely need to cover it. Tonight we got the Nets going to the Bucks, so a rematch of that huge playoff game in which Kevin Durant stepped on the line with his big ass feet, sending it to overtime, not having anything left. In this game, the Bucks are a 1-point favorite, but if I'm going with the Nets. The reason why they lost last time was because James Harden and Kyrie were not available, and they asked for Kevin Durant to do everything. Well, James is back. So there's no Kyrie, of course, for Kyrie reasons, but James is back, and he's able to help out and be that next guy to, make sure that Kevin Durant doesn't do everything. And revenge. You know that Kevin Durant, James Harden, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, those guys are going to come out and want their revenge at least on opening night. Hey, fuck y'all. Y'all getting and they're getting their rings too? Oh no, you can't get your rings and get a win. No, hell no. I like the Nets. I don't have a score, but I definitely would pick the Nets to win this game. I would at least say they're going to win by at least 4. The Splash Brothers are back, traveling to LA to see the Lakers tonight as well. The Lakers are a 3.5-point favorite over the Splash Brothers of led Warriors, and I actually like the Lakers to cover that spread. They're getting back into the flow of offense for the Warriors, and so there's going to take some time to get that going. But the Lakers do have a bunch of veterans that can play defense, and with a LeBron James-led team, you know that there's going to be a lot of communication and leadership on the floor, at least to get them through this this nationally televised game tonight. I like the Lakers covering their spread. I actually don't think it's going to be a game. I got them winning by 10. All right, we come back. We're going to go over my final thoughts for the night. And that's Vegas, baby. Yeah.
Brought to you by the Chisholm Channel and TCC Productions.